Hey friends, and welcome back to Energy Express. This morning we're gonna get dirty. Well, we'll stay kind of clean, but we're gonna learn all about nature and dirt and go outside and play. But first off, before we go play, we have to have a little bit of nourishment. So we're gonna make a dirt mix. That's right, a dirt mix that you can eat. Let's head over to Andi and learn all about dirt mix.
Hi everyone, my name is Andi Hoover and I'm an extension agent in Greenbrier County. Today you've been learning about soil and composting and being out in nature, and it's time to make a healthy snack. We're going to make something called dirt mix. It's like a trail mix, but it's full of fun things that you might find outside. Of course, we really can't eat some of the things outside, so I brought along some food to help us make our dirt mix. So let's get started with our dirt. That's the most important part. You can use any chocolate cereal that you like, just something that's going to represent what dirt would look like. You can crunch these up or you can leave them whole, but I'm using a chocolate covered Chex Mix because I like the crunch and the flavor of Chex Mix. So I'm going to add some in there to be my dirt. Now, when we think about going outside, what all do we think about that we could put in our trail mix? Well, when I go outside, I find bugs. Do you? Bugs come in all shapes and sizes and all colors. So today we're going to use some craisins in our dirt mix. And craisins are dried cranberries. They're really sweet and delicious. Then we're also going to use some raisins. Raisins are dried grapes. They're also sweet and can add some sweetness to our dirt mix. Next, when we go outside, we often find sticks. That's something I always find. So today we're going to use little pretzel sticks for our dirt sticks. Okay, you can break those in half if you want to. It makes it easier to grab a handful. So I just take my sticks and break them in half. We also find rocks when we're outside playing in the dirt. So I have a granola bar, and I'm going to take this granola bar and just break it up inside my dirt mix. This is going to sort of be like rocks. They're hard and they can be our rocks, rock formations. Okay, so we have dirt, and we have bugs, and we have sticks, and we have rocks. We might also find some green grass. So I found green Twizzlers. They taste like sour apple. And you can cut these into small little pieces, and we can add those to our dirt mix to represent grass. Okay. Give our sweet Chex Mix here a little bit of a sour flavor. Mix it up a bit. So, dirt, bugs, rocks, sticks, and grass. Next, we can find, maybe we find some nuts, like walnuts, for example. Walnuts grow on a walnut tree, and they like to fall to the floor. So these are just some chunks of walnut that we're going to add in order to have our little bit of a nutty flavor in our dirt mix. And lastly, something else we might want to add, we might find in the dirt, are worms. We're going to use gummy worms for our mix. They're a lot less slimy. So let's add a couple worms to our mix. And there you go. There is a great bag full of dirt mix. We have everything that we would find outside on our scavenger hunt.
Well, that was some of the tastiest dirt that I've ever seen. And now we're gonna go on an adventure. A scavenger hunt adventure. Let's go hang out with our friend Larel and go on a scavenger hunt.
Hi everybody, welcome to Jackson's Mill. My name is Larel, and we're gonna go on a little nature scavenger hunt right here around our West Virginia lake that you can come and visit. this tree right above my head, and all of these trees along the river, not all of them, but most of them, are our West Virginia state flower. So right now, it's not flowering season, so you can't actually see them, but this is the great rhododendron. So at 4-H camp, we sing a song called the Rhododendron Song, and I think it's a perfect wake-up song in the morning. But one funny thing about rhododendron is that as much as we love it here in West Virginia, if you go to other places, like Ireland for example, it's actually an invasive species. So rhododendron grows very big, and it can grow in the shade, and it will shade out everything underneath of it. So whenever it grows, it kind of takes over wherever it is, as it has done right along the lake here. So unless there are trees that are taller than it, as the rhododendron grows up, the rhododendron will kind of kill everything below it so that it can take all of the sun and seeds that it needs. Okay, next we're over here at our eastern hemlock tree. Our eastern hemlocks are perfect, and I love them here in West Virginia because it's something unique that we get to have on our East Coast that we get to share with Canada. It's pretty much us in Canada, and those are the two places you can go to find these beautiful, beautiful pine trees. We have an older one here. If you look at that bark over here to my right, this one is much larger than most of the other ones that we have here on campus. I couldn't tell you exactly how old it is, but it has been here for quite some time. We turn around, right here is what a little bit younger eastern hemlock is going to look like. So one way that you can tell it's eastern hemlock while you're on your scavenger hunt is that you find the branches right here and see how the leaves have a little bit of a bundle here on the ends that are a little bit lighter of a green. That is going to be sort of your flag to tell you that this is a hemlock tree right here in your yard or in your neighborhood. Even though we can't see the leaves of this tree because it is so tall that we can't see all the way to the top and see which leaves go with it, we can still tell what kind of tree this is because of the bark. So this bark is very flaky and it's a very light color, and if you push on it in some places, it just cracks right down the middle. So this is a white oak. We have lots of oaks here in West Virginia, and a white oak is the one that you're gonna see this white bark all the way down, and it's gonna be extra flaky like this, but it'll still be kind of hard, but you can just push and crack the bark on it. Over here, we have a whole bunch of American beeches. So American beeches are very, very commonly come from seed sprouts. So if you see this big one up here, it's still very young, but it's much older than these little ones that are down here. All of these right here came from seed droppings from this big one. And American beeches are very easy to identify. American beeches are easy to identify even whenever they're not leafed, so even whenever it's off season and they've already shed all their leaves for the year, because the buds of them are very, very sharp. So they're long and sharp like this one right here. So this is the bud of an American beech, and this is what that bud will turn into. You can see all the ridges. It's a very, very thin leaf. Both sides are very glossy. And you will find these all over the places, in people's yards, along the rivers, along the lakes, everywhere. this little one that comes right here across the walkway is going to be a red maple. It's a little bit smaller than a maple that you're probably used to, but we have pretty easy tricks that we can identify these from different types of maples. So if you look, right here at the end of a twig before it goes into the leaf is a little bit of a red mark. Plus, right here on the stem of the leaf is also red. And if you look at the underside of the leaf, so the top is a very shiny, glossy covering, and on the bottom, it's a very light color. A lot of the times you'll see these closer to the water, just like this. So we have this one right here that's still pretty young, but over here, we even have a little baby one that's coming up. So we have a couple really small ones that probably the seedlings came from this little bigger one right here. And then we have some growing directly in the water as well.
When I was your age, one of my chores was to take all of our vegetable scraps outside and compost them. We had a compost pile very similar to what Emily's going to show us how to make right now. Let's head over and make a compost in a bucket.
Hi everyone, my name is Emily Morrow and I'm the Agriculture and Natural Resources Agent in Jefferson County. Today I'm going to show you how to do a really fun activity using recyclable materials called Compost in a Bucket. The first thing you're going to want to do is gather something that you can reuse. A bucket is going to work best, but you can even use a milk jug, a bottle, or something else you would normally consider trash. The next thing you're going to want to do is, with the help of an adult, drill holes in your bucket. These holes are going to help the airflow in the bucket and help the compost process get started. I put some holes on the top, on the bottom, and then a few in the side. It doesn't have to look like Swiss cheese, you just need to have a few inside to help the compost process. The next thing you're going to want to do is gather all the materials to use in your compost bucket. All compostable materials can be divided into two different categories, green materials and brown materials. Green materials are things that contain water. It's going to be things like grass clippings, plant debris, or food scraps. Brown materials are things that are going to be dried, like twigs, papers, and wood chips. Once you have your material, I have some grass here for my green material and some wood chips and paper for my brown material. You're going to just start putting it into your bucket or your other container. And just make a layer. With every layer, you're going to want to add water. The compost process only works if the material is wet but not soaking. And if it's too dry, you can always add more water. If it's too wet, you can always add more material. But you want it to be the consistency of a damp sponge. After I add a layer of green material, I'm gonna add a layer of brown material. I also have some leaves left over from the fall and some paper. If you're adding paper or cardboard, you want to make sure there's no tape on it or packaging material, anything adhesive. And if you're using any type of paper, you want to make sure it's not the glossy paper like with a magazine. That stuff is not going to break down. As you add things like paper and cardboard or even food scraps, ripping it up or tearing it up into small pieces is going to make the compost process work better. So as you add your layer, then add the water on top. And then you'll add more green material. The same thing would go for if I was adding food scraps like leftover tomatoes or lettuce that we didn't eat, or even the ends of strawberries or apple cores. If it's smaller, it's going to compost better and faster. You can also use newspaper as your paper. Most newspaper uses a soy ink, so it's perfectly fine to compost. You just don't want to compost the ad inserts that have that glossy coating on them. Got a little tickled up there. So my next layer of brown material is going to be some wood chips. You can use sticks. Again, you want to make sure that they're smaller. That's why I like wood chips, because it's already broken down. If I were to add food scraps to this compost in a bucket, I would want to put them in the middle, just because I want to make sure that I have enough material, more other material other than food scraps, so I'm not attracting any flies or any mice or anything we might not want in our pile. The other nice part about having a bucket is it has a lid. So when you've added all your material, you can leave it outside and check on it periodically. You can add more material as you find it, and let the compost process keep going. All right, now come over so you can look inside the bucket. You don't want your bucket to be completely full. You want to leave enough room for airflow and for some of that water to evaporate. And then you'll be able to tell if you have too much water or maybe not enough water. You'll shut your bucket, and here comes the fun part. You want to mix all that material up. If you have a round bucket, you can roll it on the ground, or you can just shake it. And you can see some water coming out of the bottom of mine. That's why I'm going to leave this outside. I'm going to check it every other day or so. As it starts to compost, it's going to feel warm, and the material should feel warm because that's how we know it's working. The heat is going to break down all the material, and all the organisms inside are going to break everything down, and when the compost is finished, it's going to feel like a really healthy soil. And that's what we can use it for. We can use the compost on our gardens, in our houseplants, or in our flower beds, or anywhere else where we want to have a nice healthy boost of growth to our plants. So I encourage you all to find some recyclable material outside or around your house, something that you would normally throw away, and go into making your own compost in a bucket and reducing your environmental footprint within your homes.
Next up, we're gonna get the dirt on dirt. That's right, there's more than one kind of dirt. Did you know that? Our friend Jodi's gonna tell us all about dirt. Take it away, Jodi.
Hi, I'm Jodi Richmond, Extension Agent for Agriculture and Natural Resources in Mercer County. Today, we're going to talk about soil. All living things depend upon the soil. Animals and humans eat plants grown in the soil, and products such as cotton, lumber, and paper come from plants that were raised in the soil. Soil covers the entire earth, including lakes, rivers, and oceans, and city streets and sidewalks. Soil is made up of rock that's broken down over time, and organic parts that were once alive, such as pieces of rotten leaves, twigs, and sticks. It also includes dead insects and other parts. All of these things are called humus. Each square foot of soil can contain thousands of decomposers. Decomposers are animals such as insects and other living organisms, such as earthworms, beetles, bacteria, and other microorganisms that can break down organic matter. This organic matter will then provide an excellent food for plants that grow in that area. Decomposers make small tunnels through the soil which allow air and water to move freely through it. Soil can be many different colors depending on the types of rocks that it was made from. Colors such as gray, brown, yellow, or black are all common. Dark brown color indicates that the soil is rich in organic matter. Red can indicate that it contains iron oxide. Lighter colors can indicate that the nutrients have been washed away by water. Soil can also have several different textures. Textures relate to the way the soil feels. Rocks and pebbles have large pore spaces. They cannot pack tightly together, which leaves a lot of room for air to move throughout. Sandy soil has the largest particle size. It feels gritty between your fingers. Think about being at the beach. When a wave washes over the sand, it gets wet, but then it dries out very quickly. Sandy soil is great for plants that don't need a lot of water, like in the desert, but it's not very good for most other plants because they'll dry out too quickly. The next soil is silt. Silt has a medium particle size. Water will drain through it, but not very quickly. That makes it a good choice for growing most plants. Silt is soft when it's dry. It feels a lot like flour or baby powder. The third type is clay. Clay has the smallest particle size of any of the soils, and it sticks together. When it's wet, it can clump. That makes it very hard for roots to penetrate the soil. When you push it between your hands, it sometimes makes a little ribbon. That's how we can tell a soil is clay. Clay can be very difficult for plants to grow in because it traps water, and it can actually make the roots rot. So we don't like to grow plants in soil that has too much clay content. The fourth type of soil is called loam. Loam is the best soil to grow plants in because it has a mixture of all three types of soil, and it also contains a high organic matter content. It has enough of each of the three textures to slow the water movement through the soil and allow for enough water to be retained for the plants to get their nutrients, but it doesn't trap the water like clay soil does. The size of soil particles is very important. Small particle size, like clay, fit very close together, and they don't allow air and water to move. That can trap water up against the roots, and that can cause them to rot. Dried out clay becomes clumpy, and it makes it very hard for roots to penetrate, so therefore plants can't grow very well. Soil that is too sandy can also cause a problem because it drains too quickly, and it doesn't hold any water at all. So it's very difficult for plants to get the water and nutrients that they need. Earlier today, I told you soil is made from rocks being broken down. The process of wearing rocks down by wind, water, and ice is called erosion, and it normally takes thousands of years. If we tear up our soil and we leave it uncovered, our soil may be eroded and washed away, and that happens very quickly. For this demonstration, I'm going to show you that grass and other ground cover can help protect our soil and help hold it in place. When we pour on the water, we lose a little bit of soil, but the roots of the plants hold most of it in place. You can see that most of the soil stays in place. So this time we don't have any grass to hold the soil in place. And as you can see, much of the soil gets washed away. And if this continued, each time it rained, more and more soil would get washed away. That's why it's very important to have ground cover. Plants help filter the water and help retain the soil. One fun activity that you can use to see the different textures in the soil at home is to take a jar and fill it about a third of the way up with some type of soil. Then fill the rest of the way up with water and shake it. If you let it sit for a couple hours, you will start to see the different types of soil settle out. The heavier soils, those with a coarser soil texture, will fall to the bottom. So the coarser soils like rocks and sand will settle down, whereas the lighter soils like organic matter and silt will settle out. And then you have this little layer on the very top here that's clay. so you can get an idea of what percentage of each type of texture your soil has. There are lots of great books at your local library. If you'd like to learn more about soil and composting, go check them out today. I hope you enjoyed learning a little bit about the soil today. I hope you get a chance to go out and dig in the dirt yourself.
Well, friends, did you have a great time getting down and dirty? We learned a lot about dirt. We even made some delicious dirt. Well, get dirty, have fun, and we'll see you next time.